All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for this webinar entitled How to Increase Your Revenue from 25 to 100% with 5 Killer Zero Cost Follow-Up Strategies. For those of you who missed my introduction before, my name is Brian, and I'm the Marketing Manager at Contactually. And I'm so thrilled to introduce Jason Economides, the CEO of the Eco Business Academy, to you all. Want to say hi, Jason?
Hi, Brian, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Jason.
Great.
Anyway, Jason is here to teach us all about how new business owners and current ones as well can rectify the area of marketing of follow-up. And it's one of the most important things that you can do for your business in order to make sure that it succeeds. So in this webinar, Jason is going to show you step by step how you can become a follow-up expert and increase your conversion rate and revenue by 25 to 100% without spending a cent on marketing or advertising. So without further ado, I turn it over to Jason. Jason, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon.
Brian, thanks. It really is my pleasure, and thanks to all of you for dialing in. So I should say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on which part of the world you are in. Yes, it's Jason Economides here, and I just wanted to start off by thanking Contactually, for letting me speak with you all today. We have, I think we had over 800 people registered for the webinar today, which is probably the biggest webinar I've done to date. So that's amazing. I hope you get something out of it. I want to thank you all for your time today joining us. Your time is really valuable. It's literally worth money. Time is worth money, and so I appreciate that you've chosen to invest that time and money to listen to me today. I'm going to try to keep the formal part of the presentation, the strategies and myths and things and so forth, fairly short and hopefully to the point, so that we have a bit of time for some interactive Q&A, maybe even some live role playing, and see, I can speak with some of you about your own businesses, and then you can get back to your day or your evening and do whatever you had planned. I want to keep this as interactive as possible, and to that end, I just want to make sure that you can see two boxes on your screen. One is a long vertical control panel that's on the right. You'll see a few drop downs and buttons and things like that. We'll be using the button that looks like a hand from time to time, so just take a moment to find that, and press it now if you can hear me. So press the hand now if you can hear me. See some hands going up. Yeah, so press the little hand button. You've got loads and loads of hands coming up. That's great. There's a few hundred of you online at the moment. That's great. Excellent. Thank you very much. So I'm going to put your hands down now. So that's great. And so, we'll be using that from time to time. And you also see a questions box. Now, I won't necessarily be able to monitor that all the time. So, Brian, I don't know if you can see that, but if you can locate the questions box in the same control panel, if you do have a question, I will try to answer it. But the technology is pretty clever. So if we don't answer it live on the call, it will actually log the question, and we'll be able to see it on the system afterwards, and I'll be able to get back to you one to one. So I'll try to answer them if I can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so just letting you all know, I will be monitoring the questions box throughout the webinar, so feel free to ask anything that pops into your head. I'll save the most poignant questions for the end of the webinar, and I'll be asking them to Jason over the air so that the entire audience can benefit from his response. If it's something shorter, maybe like a technical question, something along those lines, I'll answer them as they come in.
great. So thanks again, Brian, for doing that, and let's get started. So. Did you know that only 5% of all new businesses survive beyond 3 years of starting up due to poor marketing, follow-up, and lack of sales? The recent recession really has literally devastated small business owners, and the pain has only just gotten started, with fewer jobs becoming available and millions of people losing their jobs. People are now being forced to start their own businesses, and a lot of them are home-based. And actually, that'd be interesting to put your hands up. How many of you run your own home-based business? If you click the hand button, just to see how many people run your own home-based business. Great. Yeah, so there are. I can see some hands going up. So that, there's definitely a few of you are in that category. Now, unfortunately, these new business owners and current ones as well know nothing about how to successfully market their business and generate the leads that they desperately need to be successful. For example, one of the most neglected, yet the easiest to rectify areas of marketing is follow up. And if we didn't believe that follow up was so important, contactually, I'm sure wouldn't exist, right, Brian? I mean,
Correct.
that's the whole ethos of contactually. It's actually very focused on follow up, and that's something I'm really passionate about. And by the way, this isn't the business owner's fault. They just haven't had anyone there to help them learn the real fundamentals of sales and marketing. And we find this entire situation to be totally unacceptable, and we decided, all of us, to do something about it. So today's webinar with Contactually is all about showing you step by step how to become a follow-up expert and increase your conversion rate and revenue by 25 to 100% without spending a cent on marketing, and regardless of what type of business you're in. So whether you're a retailer, a chiropractor, coach, consultant, accountant, lawyer, marketer, home remodeler, or even a waiter, this webinar is going to show you something that will help you increase your income. So, what can you expect today? Well, firstly, to those of you who are wondering if there's going to be a sales pitch from me at some point in this webinar about Eco Business Academy's one-to-one group or online do-it-yourself lead generation and customer conversion business coaching programs that continually bring in more leads every day without having to spend a cent on marketing or advertising, well, then you won't be disappointed because that was it. But seriously, I just want to say right out front that we are in fact not selling anything on this webinar today. I'm just really honored that the guys at Contactually said I could have the opportunity to share what I've learned about follow-up after more than 20 years in marketing and sales that continually bring more leads in every day without spending a penny on marketing and advertising. So, if you want to know more about us and get more free stuff and learn more about how we help our customers, well, just visit Eco Business Academy. I know that the guys at Contactually wanted me to keep this sort of purely educational, and don't want me to talk too much about the Contactually system itself in terms of how exactly to implement things, because that's really well covered in their open open hours, you call it.
Office hours.
Yeah, office hours. Yeah, your office hours. It's on regularly, and you've got lots of videos, and you've got a blog that you're showing all those things. But if anyone really needs something, obviously we'll show. But it's really meant to be all about strategy and tactics today. So to at least keep a middle ground, what I will do is mention to you perhaps which features you need to look at, and Brian can send you an email with links to any specific videos after the webinar. So that way, those of you on the webinar who already use the system, you'll be able to get full access and training on how to implement the follow-up methods we're going to discuss today. And those of you who are, for some insane reason, not already Contactually members, you won't be bored by a long demonstration on a system that you don't currently use. So lastly, right at the end, we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of freebies that we're going to be giving away and how you can get more resources that are really going to help your business, including some $5,000 business education grants. So do make sure you're here right till the end so you can learn all about those. So what you need right now is one of these and one of these. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like to do a quick audience poll. I don't know if you have control. Actually, I can do that from over here. I do actually want to figure out who is already using Contactually as a CRM or a follow-up system. So I'm just put that on the screen. Let's see if you can all vote. Click the buttons. We've got 60% voted, so keep voting. There's 65% of you have voted so far. Keep going, keep going. I can see, there's quite a few of you use it, and there's just over half of you have used it so far. So 74% have voted so far. Keep voting. Hopefully you can see the poll on the screen. Right, and well, I think we'll close out the poll there anyway and share the results. Can you see the results there? Hopefully you can. Mm-hmm. Great. So 56% use it, 28% no, and 16% thinking about it. Great. Excellent. So that really helps me sort of know exactly how to talk about the system later on today. So we're gonna talk a bit about process today, or actually a lot about process. And depending on which books you read, there are different steps to the sales process. For example, you've probably heard of the one where you move suspects to prospects, prospects to customers, customers to even bigger customers. Or if you read C.J. Hayden's book, Get Clients Now, it's a great book, by the way. It's really good at systemizing your follow up and that sort of thing. She calls it filling the pipeline, follow up, into having sales conversations and closing sales. At Eco Business Academy, we have our process sort of moving people from we need to get more leads, more conversions, more transactions, higher prices, more profits, and then eventually build $1 million business. That's franchising and licensing. So whatever process you have, the most important thing, the most important skill you need to practice and perfect is follow up. And if you have seen CJ's book, you'll see that the biggest bucket for her is follow up, and it's really, really important. So, however, even though this is in theory simple, without doing follow up religiously, you'll never get the conversion rate up as high as you would like. So, I want to do one more audience poll here. So, how good do you think you're at follow up? Right. So, if you think you're excellent, you're a follow up guru. You're good, average, so but I've still got a bit to learn, or poor, I'm not getting anywhere, or I'm not doing anywhere near enough of it. So I'm just going to do that poll now. Let's do get you all voting. Some interesting results coming up, I can tell you. Very interesting. Great. Let's keep voting. Keep voting. Go, go, go. We've got 10 seconds. Whatever the first answer is, that's the right one. We've got 75% of you have voted already. Let's keep going another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm just going to close out the poll now. So there you can see the results. So, I mean, it's a few of you are the follow-up guru. You've got 34% who are good, 46% average, and 16% poor. So, there's going to be something for everybody in the webinar today. The really interesting results we see there in the poll. The thing about follow-up is that it's something that everyone knows they need to do. It's a simple concept, and if this were not true, you wouldn't be here on this webinar right now. But with the majority of businesses not doing something so simple, why doesn't it get done? Well, the reason is fear of rejection usually, and it's my mission on this webinar to surgically remove any fear you may have when it comes to picking up that phone or sending out that follow-up email. So before I get into some of the strategies, here are some of the lies and the myths and things that you may falsely believe about follow-up, and the reasons it doesn't happen the way it should and how often it should, and how the fear of rejection kind of manifests itself. If any of these resonate with you, I'd love to see your hands raise up, and actually you can even comment in the question box. That would be quite interesting as well. So myth number 1 is I don't have enough time. Myth number 2 is my prospects will think I'm hassling them. So if any of these resonate with you, put your hand up. Myth number 3 is if they want to buy what I have to sell, they're going to call me when they're good and ready. Myth number 5 is if a prospect says I'm not currently looking at buying a new widget, the prospect means I don't ever want to buy one of your widgets, and it's just a polite way of letting me down gently. And myth number 5 is I need a really advanced and expensive contact management system and 5 members of staff in order to do effective follow-up. Or worse, you might call this myth number 6, I don't need a CRM system. So how many hands did we have? Get some hands coming up with some of these. People put their hands down themselves, I think, as well. But yeah, we've definitely got some hands coming up here. So I want to sort of talk about these myths. And what I know to be true is that from working in banks, internet companies, I've worked as a waiter in the past. I'll talk about that a bit later. Is that none of the above are true, and I'm going to break these down one by one now. So myth number one is I don't have enough time. So this is just this is just an excuse based on all the other myths to give you an excuse to not do your follow-ups. Well, Richard Branson, Donald Trump, Anthony Robbins, Alan Sugar, Bill Gates, and all these kind of people, well, they all have the exact same 24 hours in a day as you do, but they're multimillionaires. So it can't be time that's stopping you. It's just got to be a question of organization, prioritization, and delegation. Now, if you disagree with that, put your hand up. So myth number two, my prospects will think that my prospects will think I'm hassling them. Okay, so here is the truth. Here's the fact. Your prospects will not have entered your showroom, your store, visited your website, come up to you and introduce themselves or given you their telephone number if they didn't have some kind of need and thought that you might possibly be the solution to it. So trust in this one principle. If you ever have this thought, and stopping you having a follow up, my prospects will think I'm hassling them. Just if your prospects think that you are hassling them, they will tell you. Okay, that's the principle you've got to keep in your head. Myth number three is if they want to buy what I have to sell, they're going to call me when they are good and ready. Well, okay, this is partially true. However, you're never going to make a living waiting for your phone to ring. You have to be proactive. You have to schedule your follow-ups and your callbacks. You have to keep in contact with them all the time. Keep sending them interesting information, updates or samples, and don't forget to always ask for the order as well. So for the guru on this one aspect, you really need to do yourself a favor and buy a copy of Zig Ziglar's book, Secrets of Closing the Sale. I actually recommend that you go to audible.com and get his unabridged version of him reading out the book and a number of hours all live. It's a 15-hour sales training audio, and it'll cost you just a few dollars for that. It's the best money you'll spend. So make sure you get the unabridged version of that. It's a great book. It's Zig Ziglar, Secrets of Closing the Sale. Myth number four is if a prospect says, I'm not currently looking at buying a new widget, then the prospect means I don't ever want to buy one of your widgets. And it's just a polite way of letting me down gently. Well, I'm telling you, this myth is completely untrue. I can't tell you how many times I've had a client who's told me, not now, multiple times. And eventually, 3 months later, when I've been calling and emailing, and eventually be told, oh, finally, Jason, we can talk. I'm sorry, I've been really, really busy. Thanks for your persistence, because I really do want to work with you, but couldn't make the space until now. So the key word in this myth and in this sentence that the prospects will be telling you is the word currently, right? So the most important word is currently. If they say currently, they mean right now I'm not interested. Doesn't mean I'm not ever interested. So prospect is saying that right now they don't want to or can't proceed with a purchase. It could be timing, it could be cash flow, and it's the opportunity for you to find out what's going on for them so that that you can proceed on to this, which is your immediate next question. Keep them in your follow-up process. You want to find out when to follow up with them. 2 months, 2 weeks, a year, that sort of thing. So insurance companies and car dealerships do it all the time. They know that buying insurance and cars are really infrequent events. So they've learned that the single most important question that they ask in their business is, when is your insurance renewal date? Or when are you likely to look at changing your current vehicle? So think about your business and think, well, if they're not interested now, presumably there must be a time when they might be thinking of, they'll need to buy a new one. They might need to get something repaired. Whatever your business is, think about what question you can ask them so that you'll be able to put in your diary when to follow up with them. So make sure you always ask for the prospect's timescale, when it's okay to follow up with them, put it in your planner, and then ensure you follow up exactly at that time or date. And I actually recommend for certain businesses like insurance, maintenance, car salespeople, where there is a very long lead time. For example, call me 6 months from now, that you call about a month earlier or a week earlier as well, because you can bet your bottom dollar your competitors will. I've got a message here saying just to mention that book again, and I'll probably put it at the end of the presentation. But it's the name of the book is Secrets of Closing the Sale, and it's by Zig Ziglar, who, bless his soul, he died just about a year ago now, actually. So yeah, Zig Ziglar's Secrets of Closing the Sale. So myth number 5 is I need a really advanced and expensive contact management system and 5 members of staff in order to do effective follow-up, or even worse, I don't need a CRM system. And this simply isn't true. The system is not actually the paraphernalia that you use, but the process that you ideally want to follow. The cheapest CRM system you can buy, you've got the caveman CRM system that consists of these items here. Anybody got one of those? Put your hand up. Who currently uses this CRM system? Got a bunch of hands coming up. So we've got a pencil. We've got a planner here, an address book, and an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of you using that system, and to an extent, it will get you some results. Of course, you can get the Jedi CRM system, and I'm not getting you extra brownie points for this one, but obviously it's contractually. There are other systems, but I've looked at so many systems, and contractually I find the reason why I use contractually is because it's just so focused on follow-up, and that's the biggest problem that most business owners have. So that's the Jedi CRM system. So the more contact you have, with more people, the more incoming calls you're going to have, the more referrals you're likely to generate, and the more sales you're going to make. So yeah, you can, like I said, you can use various different types of system, but contextually is the one that I really recommend the most. So, oh, by the way, on that point, if you want the god of actual follow-up is a guy called Joe Girard, and his book is How to Sell Anything to Anybody. It's absolutely brilliant book. You should definitely get yourself a copy of that. So Joe Girard is not just any Joe, by the way. He's the world's greatest salesman, as verified by the Guinness Book of Records and confirmed and audited by a major accounting firm. But what Joe doesn't know about follow-up simply isn't worth knowing. And I'll try to refer to some of his gems as we go along, if I remember. So let's start with a few guidelines and principles that you should know that will get you on your way. So I know that the webinar title stated 5 follow-up strategies you can use to increase your revenues 25 to 100%. But I'm going to share sort of more than 5 strategies. And the first 3 are the most important that you need to know and understand. So here are strategies 1 to 3. Strategy number 1 is Goya and follow up. Strategy 2 is Goya and follow up. And strategy number 3 is Goya and follow up. And I wonder, does anyone here know what the law of Goya is? See if any hands go up here. Yeah, I'm going to unmute Robert. If I unmute your line, can I ask you to tell the audience what the law of Goya is? Hey, Robert, your line is unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
We can, Robert.
I'm just guessing, and I sent it under test, but I believe it's get off your arse.
That's it. That's exactly right. The law of Goya is get off. Well, we're in polite company here. Get off your rear end. Yes, get off your ass. Honestly, I know you might feel like shortchanged you a little bit with three strategies here, but honestly, that is something I know to be true. You have to get up and do it. Robert, do you agree with that? Yeah. Well, how does that sound to you?
I'm laughing, rolling on the floor, laughing my rear end. Yes, I very much agree to that. I'm embarrassed, and you've nailed my those three strategies square on today.
Absolutely. So those are the three strategies, and you've got to do them. And we'll talk a little bit more about how contextually how contextually makes that happen a bit later on. So thanks a lot, Robert, for your participation there. So yeah, the law of Goya is exactly that. I remember doing a business assessment for a mortgage brokerage firm a few years ago, and I asked one of the salespeople how many follow-up or outbound sales calls she made every day. And this firm was really, I mean, it was going down. It was going down fast. She had this look on her face when I asked her, like she had this look like she was making some kind of NASA level maths calculation when I asked her how many outbound calls and follow-ups she was making. And then she came out with the answer 3. 3 per day, 3 calls per day. And they were wondering why the company was dropping like a stone. This is really so fundamental, and it's just so obvious. It's what I call the Dorothy's there's no place like home kind of situation. Remember the movie The Wizard of Oz, where at the end the balloon floats away, the balloon Dorothy thought would get her home and everything she wanted, and when she asked, well, what do I do now? The Good Witch of the North says, oh, just click your heels and say there's no place like home. And Dorothy's reaction, was more or less, are you kidding me? Something that obvious that I could have done way before now without having to avoid flying killer monkeys, a water-soluble witch with a permanent face mask who terrorized me, and some short snake oil sales guy from my hometown who thought he was God's gift to Munchkinland, calling himself a wizard, and then leaves without me. And all I needed to do all this time was just click my heels and say, there's no place like home. It's like, stating the obvious, isn't it? I know it seems like stating the obvious, but really, you've absolutely got to make sure the follow-ups happen. If you don't make the phone calls, you won't get the results. I mean, just doing that will increase your sales at least 25 to 50%. That's just doing it without even having other strategies. So these strategies and others I'm going to talk about really do sort of they may seem obvious, but the fact is 99% of the time they just don't get done. So strategy number 4 is always be ready to follow up. And this requires you to get your follow-up process mapped out and prepared. All of your marketing communications, including your follow-ups, will have to follow the marketing equation or the conversion equation. I'm not, unfortunately, going to have time to cover that here today because, as promised, everyone who registered for today's webinar is invited to another session with us. Brian, you're going to organize that and send another email out, right, at some point? I get it. So, where I go into the conversion equation in a lot greater detail with examples, and we'll also have a full Q&A session. And guess what? There's not going to be any charge for that webinar either, so it's going to be completely free. The key to increasing your conversions during all of your follow-up contacts can be summed up by that great business philosopher, Jim Rohn. Have something good to say. So that's your kind of your market dominating position, and articulate it really well. Say it well, and that means so you have to write a really good script and say it often. So this is where your actual follow-up frequency comes in, and that's where I really like Contactually's bucketing features. It makes this part really, really easy. So the question is, what are you going to say? This is the strategic part of your marketing, and this needs to follow the marketing equation, which we cover in the 3 biggest mistakes webinar that we'll do, that you're all going to be invited to, as I said. And this is where Pizza Hut comes in. If you remember from the invitation, I mentioned that Pizza Hut and some other companies have become multi-million or multi-billion-dollar entities because of solid follow-up. If you ever want to learn about follow-up, just go to Pizza Hut, even if you don't normally eat there. I haven't eaten there personally for 15 years, or any other large and successful restaurant chain, specifically chains, not just a local restaurant, but something that every town that you go to seems to have one of these. So nothing that happens during your visit happens by accident. At the age of 16, I wanted to get my driving license. So not being one to ask for money from my parents, which we didn't have anyway, I decided to go look for a part-time job that I could do while I was at school. So I'll never forget my induction day at Pizza Hut in London. we were given a very specific procedure that we had to follow that would ensure all the customers felt loved and valued. And now, don't quote me exactly on this, but because it was about 20 years ago, but it went something like this. This was, number one, greet customers within 30 seconds of entering the restaurant and give them menus in no more than 1 minute whilst they're waiting to be seated. Two was seat the customers within no more than 2 minutes if a table is available. Otherwise, explain to the customer the approximate wait they should expect based on how busy the restaurant is. Number three, once they're seated, take drinks, garlic bread and pizza order within 4 minutes of initial arrival. But garlic bread, put the garlic bread in the oven. This is what we had to do as the waiters. And number four is bring drinks within 7 minutes of arrival and garlic bread within 8 minutes of arrival. Five, remove the garlic bread plates, ask if they want any more drinks or salad. You see what's going on here? Start getting to follow-up. Say, ask if they want any more drinks or salad. Then you want to bring the pizzas in a certain amount of time, 16 minutes after arriving. And again, this is where more follow-up starts happening. 3 minutes after the pizza is served, follow up with the customer to ask them if they were happy with their food so far. And this achieves several things. It gains rapport with the customer. It gives the opportunity to correct any mistakes. And this is really important, as if there have been any mistakes, there is actually a high likelihood of selling even more to the customer. So the customer may have already finished their drinks, and they may order more drinks, and it gives the opportunity to sell more, as I said. Near the end of the pizza, you ask if they'd like to order anything more, and and so forth. And the process was all very regimented, and that's why even at really big restaurants, chain restaurants, I think in the UK, things like Wagamamas and ZZ's and things like that, these kind of restaurants, they'll have told their waiters, or some of them will have said, right, in order to keep this working like clockwork, this is what you do, and this is how you sell more. Is at 18 minutes you ask them. So you get the idea. So for a practical exercise, you've got a pen and paper there. Are you able to map out your process of interaction and follow up either with your prospects or existing customers? So get a piece of paper out now and write out sort of step one is your greeting. So, and you don't need to necessarily do it now. Maybe just take some notes. And if anybody wants me to send them like the template, then just send me an email at the end. I'll give you my email address at the end. Make a note to remind yourselves to do this. And I'll send you some tips on this later on. So you've got step one is your greeting. What's the equivalent that you use? Step two is seating the customers down. So what does that look like in your business? Is this asking them to physically sit down to talk to you, or is it arranging for a salesperson to come and see them, or arrange an appointment to meet? How long should this take? So define that, and what is the target time for this to happen? You need to spend some time building rapport also. Just bear with me 1 second. I've got a couple of lines I've just unmuted here. So take the time to build rapport with a customer, whether that's via email or via phone, or if it's face to face. And then what's the equivalent to taking the customer's drinks and garlic bread and the pizza order? Now in services, you may only be able to do drinks and garlic bread first as they begin to know you better. Those are sort of your little free seminar, your free session, or free educational material. So what appetizers, samples, or ideas can you get them looking at? Again, set the time frame, and make sure that your staff also know what the time frame is for these things to happen. When they can expect to see products and services. Step number four is obviously bringing those things to them. So this is simply you delivering the initial outlines, the samples. These may or may not cost you anything. Hopefully they don't. In the case of a service business, as I said, like a personal trainer, a coach, consultant, it may just be an introductory session of some sort. How's this going to be delivered? Where, when, by email, by phone, and articulate this and follow up with the customer constantly. What do you want the initial bite-sized products to look like, or the service to deliver? Who's going to follow up? So some business owners don't even know who's going to do the follow-up. If you've got more than one person in your business who are interacting with customers, you've got to allocate who's going to do it. So, and if it's retail, are you able to sell a small item? Look at your upselling, your downselling strategies, and your cross-selling strategies. You can give away any low-cost samples to bring them into your world. So step number 5 was kind of deliver the main course items. This is the main part of your customer order. So you want to deliver that and have a nice, elegant delivery of your actual product or service. Step 6 is, and this is where, where after the pizzas were served, the waiter checks to see if the customer is happy. I'm going to ask her, put your hands up if you have, as part of your formal process, an after sales satisfaction survey of some sort, that, or at least you deliberately follow up to ensure the satisfaction. So we have a few hands going up. Yeah, a few hands there. So yeah, everyone should be thinking about, asking, was your meal good? Did you like it? Because sometimes people just, if they don't like your service, they just go and they say, well, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother explaining to them what I liked or didn't like. So you should take the opportunity to interact at every stage. And you might be pleasantly surprised, because you could get a repeat order, and you may even get a referral. So that gives you the opportunity to sell more drinks, to sell more products, and that's what we call in Eco Business Academy the more transactions part of your business development process. So you're going to have to sit down and create some follow-up emails, telephone scripts that mimics the selling of refills. So, and again, contactually, you've got a couple of features there, Brian. You've got your programs, you've got the email templates. What else? And what would I be missing?
Scale mail, another great way to get in touch with a large group of people at once. Using things like templates to really help expedite the process.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So I certainly use that feature all the time.
Yep, and the last one is probably our new pipelines feature, which will help you track which deals you've won, which deals you've lost, the value of each of them to really, tactically measure your performance.
Awesome. Yeah. It's I'm looking forward to using that feature, which you've just launched it, haven't you? Just in the last few days, I guess, something like that.
Yeah, that's very much the case. It was last week.
Great, excellent. So yeah, and you've also put on your blog, there's a link to a webinar you're doing on that as well. I've got to attend that and walk through that one. So
yeah, the webinar was actually yesterday, but there's
it happened already. Okay, I missed it.
It did, but we recorded it, and there's going to be a link up on our training site very soon.
Awesome, great, excellent. Thanks, Brian. So you got all those steps 8 and 9, which is collecting the plates and asking if they want some more of anything. So this might be the way this might look like in a business is a certain definite time in the future, perhaps a year or 2 years later. Or if you're a mortgage broker, it could be at the end of the discounted rate period of your customer's mortgage. I'm often surprised at people like gas engineers, gas central heating in the UK, for landlords, where they know that the landlord every year needs to get the certificate issued on the property, yet I never have a plumber calling me up about a month before it expires saying, hey, I checked your boilers about a year ago. Do you want me to come over again? I'm just astonished that the easy business that is lost by these simple opportunities that aren't taken up. So you need to get these diarized. And anytime a customer buys something from you, what Joe Gerard would do is he would immediately write in his diary for a year later and the year after that the anniversary of that purchase. So he would then get in touch with those customers saying, hey, do you know it's a year ago since you bought a car from me, and I'm just running around my office celebrating that you've been such a great customer and you bought this car. And he made every excuse to get in touch with his customers. So get all these things diarized. Take notes of your customers' children's names or their favorite holiday destinations and hobbies. Get to know them so you have always a reason to talk to them. So to keep your phone busy, you do need to come up with as many excuses and reasons to call your customers and prospects as possible. And this is why I do like Joe's book so much. So you must get yourself a copy of that book. And he would actually find all sorts of excuses, like he'd send them cards for Christmas, Easter, Hanukkah, the anniversary of the purchase of the car, as I said, the birthday of Abraham Lincoln, Thanksgiving. And so every month he had a reason to get in touch with his customers. And this brings us neatly onto the next strategy, which is really relevant and critical to your follow-up and sales success. And any top salesman knows this, and it's to have the patience, of a saint and the tenacity of a bulldog. Um, you really need to have this patience. You've got to be brave and keep doing the follow-up. Some statistics you'll probably have seen is that you need to contact prospects 7 to 10 times before you get a sale. I was speaking with my good friend Pete Ryan, who's on the call tonight, actually, who was pointing out even further why this is true. And it originally comes from Calvin Rush's book, Well Through Workshops, I believe. And it's simply this, whenever you embark on a marketing campaign, you can expect the following results. That 3% of the audience are going to be direct hits. These are people who are ready, or pretty or 90% ready to buy, because they currently have this problem right now. They were driving their car and they crashed it, and they need a new car. They just got to have a car right now. So you'll have heard of these people as now buyers. They are actively shopping. These are people that every business is in a dogfight for to get these customers, right? So there's obviously a ton of competition for that. So the point of the book was that you need to look at education-based marketing. Again, it's something that we're going to cover a lot more in the next webinar, and it's designed to target the huge 67% segment where you can educate them into as to why they need you right now. 67% of the audience are potential buyers but need a little bit more education, more material, or more time to make their decision. These people should be contacted more frequently. If you use contactually buckets properly, you can do this by editing the frequency time specifically for the bucket you'll put these people into, so that when your daily report card gets sent to you in the morning, the right people are suggested in the right order, so you can then create the right action notes and follow-up notes. 7% of those 67% are open to your product service, but not actively looking necessarily. 30% of the 67% are aware that they need a solution, but perhaps sometime in the future, maybe when time or cash flow frees up. And 30% are just simply unconscious. They're completely unconscious at the moment. Then they're going to use a lot of excuses for why they're not looking for a solution right now. They may mention time, money, and they might be attached to the suffering that they have at the moment. And 30% are straight out no's. They're never going to buy from you. Well, almost never, but they might know someone who could be interested. So you follow up with them from time to time, saying, just touch base with them. And then, if you're using a contactually bucket, maybe you'd set the frequency of reminders at, once every 180 days or something. So you can see, why it's so important to, to have this kind of deliberate follow-up process. Well, I kind of feel like I shortchanged you a bit, as I said, with strategies 1 to 3. So here's an extra strategy before we go into the Q&A part of the webinar now. So strategy 6 is to focus on a niche. Make your life easy by focusing on a niche, guys. You heard this before. Focus on personal trainers based in the meatpacking district of Manhattan, or focus on small accountancy practices with fewer than 10 employees in West Kensington in London. Create a follow-up system for that specific niche. The reason, following on from being prepared and ready to do your follow-ups, the easiest way to do this is really to be focused. So, like it or not, we live in a time when prospects and clients demand specialization. They want to feel that they're receiving the product or the service they want and need from an authority or an expert. And you must position yourself and your business as that authority or expert. And you can't do that while trying to be everything to everyone. Most business owners today try to expand their product or service offerings, reasoning incorrectly, by the way, that they're casting a wider net that's going to catch more fish. In reality, they're doing the exact opposite. Your prospects want to feel as though you'll focus solely on the things that are most important to them. If you try to be everything to everyone, you become nothing to no one. The key is to discover what your ideal clients really want and make that your niche market. A mere 20% of your current clients are producing 80% of your total business revenue. Those are your ideal clients, and they love what you do and what you provide for them. When you select the area that attracted them to you as your niche market, you immediately begin to attract this type of client in droves. So your revenue and your profits will begin to skyrocket, and you will actually begin to work fewer hours. You're going to play at what you do instead of work at what you hate. If you fail to create a niche market for your business, the cost to you may be staggering. You lose revenue and profit, you work longer and harder, you lose the chance to build a valuable business asset, and you're going to be forced to compete forever on price against something we're going to cover a lot more in the next webinar. You'll never become unique or differentiate your business from your competition. And these are the secrets business owners have got to know to effectively position their business in the proper niche market that will explode the revenue. If you focus on a niche, all of your marketing activities and your follow-up become much more efficient, easier, and not only that, you'll have more and more relevant stories to share with each call that you make in each email you send out. So that is more or less, the sort of the blitz half an hour. It went over a little bit, so I'm afraid. Of the formal part of the webinar, and I'm happy to sort of do Q&A right now. So we can talk about what what parts of I don't know if, Brian, if you want to talk about any particular parts of Contactually that we haven't covered already that people can use to implement some of these strategies. I think we covered most of them, didn't we?
I think we did too. And if anyone's still missing a little bit of product-specific information, I would recommend going to our training website, which is at training.contactually.com. And there you'll be able to find a plethora of information ranging from a 20-minute online video demo to specific feature video demonstrations to ebooks, white papers, and much more.
Yeah. And actually, there's one thing I want to say. The Grow Your Business and Network Today with these 10 actions email that comes in the morning.
Yes, sir.
For those of you who are members of Contactually, how many of you didn't open up that email this morning? Put your hand up. Put your hand up if you did not open that email this morning. Yeah. So I really, this is that email is really, really great. It really inspires me every morning. And that helps you the most with strategies numbers 1 to 3. So do make sure you open that email. It's absolutely essential. So I think that probably leaves us for do Q&A and talk about the freebies and giveaways that we've got to talk about today. What do you want to do first, Brian? Do you want to should we talk about the freebies first and then take some Q&A?
Up to you.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, while I've still got the floor before we get delayed with, but probably going to run over with Q&A, I do want to let you guys know that, we have 8 $5,000 educational business grants available. They're available to any business that qualifies, and I'll actually bring up the website in a second. There's no application for it. You never have to pay it back. It's like a scholarship for a number of the different services that we offer. You can go ahead and apply for it. It only takes a few minutes, absolutely no obligation. But thanks to an entrepreneurial investment group that I'm involved with, we have these available to offer to Contactually's customers. So I'm really, really pleased about that we're able to offer this. You just need to be earning. Your business should be generating less than $1 million a year. You should have 10 or fewer employees and been in business for fewer than 5 years. Those are kind of the basic requirements for getting the full grant. If you're slightly over on one of those things, you can still apply, and we'll let you know whether it might be you might qualify for the full amount, and that grant can be used to apply for a number of things that we offer at Eco Business Academy. So that's the sort of the big thing I wanted to mention today. You've got the link on the screen there. Hopefully, can you see the link there? ecobusinessacademy.com/grant. So yeah, if you click on that, we've got 8 of these available It says today, it's this month, so you can apply any time this month. But specifically for this webinar, I want to make sure that you know that we've got 8, and if we run out of them this month, then we will offer them again next month. The invitation to our next webinar, I think I'm going to leave that to you to do over the next few days when we set the dates right, Brian. So the next one is the 3 lead generation mistakes small business owners make and how to overcome them all. We're going to be going over the conversion equation and the marketing equation. So exactly how to put together every single one of your how to put together every single one of your bits of marketing material. All your marketing collateral has to be based on the marketing equation. We're going to cover that in great detail. We'll show you how to put a business card together and landing pages and brochures and things like that. And it's a really good interactive session. And for anyone who just wants to interact with me, I'm happy to offer you a free mini assessment. Just send a message to me via Eco Business Academy /one-on-one coaching. That's one-on-one-coaching. So, or just email me. That's fine too. Jason@ecobusinessacademy.com. We will schedule a time to have a chat. So we've got about 8 minutes, 10 minutes, or however long you tell me, Brian. I'm happy to take questions if I'll put everyone's hands down. If anyone wants to ask me a question right now, I'm really happy to do that. You'll probably be monitoring the questions.
Yes, exactly. So I do have a couple of questions here ready to go. So why don't we go ahead and get started with those? And if anybody does have additional questions, feel free to ask them in the questions box, and I'll be sure to ask Jason before we wrap things up. So the first question comes from Jack Blakely, and he says, in contract-based sales, would you follow up until you get that answer? Most people don't know when their contract expires off the top of their head in my business.
Okay, so Jack, I'm just going to unmute your line if you don't mind, and we'll have a quick chat. Jack, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so it's just to explain to me on a contract-based business, you're just saying that they might not happen to know what the renewal date is, and so you wouldn't know when to follow up. Is that what you were?
Yes, because a lot of my prospective clients have used the same system for so long. The contract is not something that they're thinking about. It's not a system that you would generally think of changing. It's a new market that we're getting into. So a lot of people don't know when their contract is actually up.
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, what insurance companies do, they tend to be quite persistent, saying, well, would you be able to check tonight, and I'll give you a call at, give you a call at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and we find out. I would just keep, I would actually sort of pin them down to commit themselves to actually looking. So I understand it. I don't. What? You're just like 90% of my customers. They don't know when their renewal date is. But I want to make sure that I'm going to get you the best deal possible. Our prices change all the time. I mean, I don't know exactly what product or service you're offering there, Jack. But I'd say, look, it fluctuates during the year. It fluctuates due to whatever reason they fluctuate. And I just don't want you to miss out. When would be a good time when you'd have the opportunity to check up on when your renewal date is? No pressure. It helps me keep myself organized, and I can follow up rather than calling you 5 times during the year to ask when you're thinking of renewing. I'll just call you the one time.
Perfect.
That's what I would do. Does that help?
Yep, it sounds good.
Great.
All right, the next question comes from Wilton Blake. Wilton says, I'm a freelance writer who's extremely introverted. The fewer calls and contacts I have to make, the better. Okay. How can I increase my business with CRM when I prefer minimum contact?
Okay, well, if you really prefer that, I would delegate it to somebody who does like doing that. That's the simple thing to do. I'm just going to unmute you, Wilton. Wilton, can you hear me? Hopefully your microphone works. I've just unmuted your line. Can you hear me, Wilton? You might be muted on your side. Well, I'll keep the line open just for a few moments. But I think if you are introverted and you don't want to do that, I completely respect that. well, the good thing about the CRM, because it's electronic, in a way, you're not really being you're you're not you're not talking directly with the person, so you can take your time to formulate your answers or formulate your follow-ups, and that can be that'll take a lot of pressure off of you, I would have thought. But otherwise, perhaps delegate it. There are various people that you can do. You can ask the sort of commission-based salespeople or interns you can get. So I would have a look at have a look at that kind of strategy. In fact, I'm going to open up the line to Shabana, who's a friend and associate of mine, and she rocks on this kind of stuff. Shabana.
Hey, how are you, Jason?
Yeah, I'm not bad. Shabana, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
So
thanks for pulling me on.
Yeah, no problem. So I was just wondering if you have a comment for that last question.
Yeah, sure. I hope this helps. In terms of being introverted, and I can completely understand that the whole aspect of follow-up, even using a program like contractually, what that'll do is it'll help somebody, especially somebody who's introverted and doesn't like to make a lot of outbound calls, but you can set up the system so that you'll be top of mind, because the thing to remember for everybody on the call is that your prospects buy when they're ready to buy, not necessarily when you're ready to sell. So even in reference to the caller or the question before, with regards to not even knowing when a contract is due or when a renewal comes up, it just becomes something that's very automatic. So if you want to get into that line of business or maybe disrupt what a competitor already has, follow-up is going to be the key to staying top of mind. And as a freelance writer, you definitely want your name to kind of pop up so that when an opportunity for your product or service becomes necessary for your prospective client, you want to be the first or the second person that they think of.
Great. That's awesome. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, Shabana.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
another couple of minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and keep things moving. We got the same question from two people, from Carter and from Matt Jones. And they want to know if you believe in leaving voicemails and if that counts as a follow-up, or should you just keep trying until you get the person live on the line?
Yeah, okay. So yes, it absolutely counts as follow-up. And you should note that if you're using Contactually, you should note that as an action that you've done so that you remember that you've done it, especially when you're calling lots of people. Of course, it's better to get somebody live, right? And that's if you can get somebody live on the phone, it's fantastic, because you can ask them. So here's the key though, right? So it's great to use a voicemail. It's great to use a voicemail, but what you want to do is be prepared in advance. So what if I do get a voicemail? What am I going to say? Have it all scripted out. Get yourself organized so that you're not flustered when you're leaving that voicemail. But yes, it absolutely counts as a follow-up, because they're going to listen to their voicemail, and they're really going to like Shabana was saying, you're going to be top of mind for them. So leave them a voicemail, say why you're calling, and tell them when you're going to call again, so that they can expect you.
And then kind of on the same lines, Rebecca Lynn wants to know, how many times should you follow up before you give up and move on?
Okay, well, it sort of depends, but my general rule is you follow up until they tell you to stop following up with them.
All right, great answer.
But because I can tell you, when I was working, in sales in investment banking, there were certain clients that I would have to follow up with for 12 to 18 months before getting an order. And when I eventually got an order, it will be $1 million order. So, unless a client tells you, stop contacting me, keep contacting them. If you're really bothering them, and that's that myth that I can't remember which was myth number 3 and number 4, that, this myth that if you keep contacting them, you're hassling them. Well, look, don't call them 8 times in one day, but just make sure that you are following up, and always have something good to say. So have something, if have an excuse. Say, oh, I just noticed that it's Thanksgiving, and I want to thank you for being a customer, or saying, have a list. Actually, there's a really good exercise for everybody to do. Get a piece of paper out and list out 15 to 20 different excuses, reasons that you could be calling somebody. All right, this is a really important thing to do. Now, I was just calling because I saw something today and it reminded me of you, and I was wondering how you're getting on with that new project of yours, or this whatever it is that this new project, or this product, or whatever that you were looking at. So come up with 15 to 20 things that you could possibly say, right? And then obviously make a note. Make a note down of which excuse you've used, so that you don't use it again necessarily. But I would keep on following up, and try different ways of following up with them. Some people follow up much better via SMS than they do with voicemails or with emails. So I would encourage you to try different mediums, and have different reasons for contacting people.
Great. And the last question that we're going to have time for today comes from Jeff Peters. He says, I have dozens of networking partners sitting in my Contactually dashboard right now, but I'm reluctant to follow up with them. Do you have any advice? These are people in my industry, fellow salespeople, and so forth.
You say Jeff Peters?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to unmute your line, hopefully. Jeff, can you hear me? Hello, Jeff. I couldn't.
Jeff says that he doesn't have his microphone connected.
Oh,
so
don't
he
worry.
won't be able to answer.
Oh, no worries. So, can you repeat the question again? Just want to make sure that I don't miss any bits out.
Absolutely. So Jeff says that he has dozens of networking partners, like people in his industry and fellow salespeople, sitting in his Contactually dashboard, but he's reluctant to follow up with them, and he wants to know if you have any advice.
Okay, so I would be looking at commonalities, and I think focusing on a niche is really going to help, because if you can, I'm not sure what line of business you're in, Jeff, but
he's in sales, so he wants to figure out a way to talk to fellow salespeople rather than, these aren't his prospects, but he wants to add value to, his fellow industry folk.
Okay, that's interesting. So, I think what I would tend to do is, I wish I knew exactly what kind of business you're in, like specifically what you're into, but I would definitely be sending emails with articles of interest. Something in your business. You say, hey, I just saw this, and I would really recommend arranging to have coffees with your colleagues or your fellow salespeople, lunches, things like that. Don't be afraid to go out with them. So you need to have a reason. They need to have a reason to talk to you. I know what I'm a salesperson as well, and salespeople can be quite territorial. They can be like, oh, why is this person wanting to talk to me, and everything else? Are they trying to eat my breakfast and that kind of thing, right? So you just need to kind of just there's no reason to be fearful about it, Jeff. Just just go and ask them. So try to find out. I mean, if I know the salespeople, so I don't know if they're kind of, maybe they have a slightly different angle to you, or they're selling maybe slightly in a slightly different way. Just share your successes. Share anything that anything you think will they think will find useful, and ask their advice. Actually, one of the best things that you can do for getting referrals and getting that kind of interaction is actually asking for advice. That's what I would do. You almost don't offer anything, just to say, hey, look, I was asking for advice. I mean, there's nothing better than boosting someone's ego, right, Brian? I mean, you just sort of say, I'm just sitting here, I can see you doing such a great job, and I'd love some of that success to rub off on me. I've got some of these things that I'd like to do, and can you help me? Tell me some of your experiences, and I think you'll find you're probably not going to be able to stop them from talking. So asking for advice is a really, really good thing to do.
Yeah. And one additional thing that I'll add is it's always a great practice if you're not quite sure what to say, but you want to add value, to share content that's going to be applicable to them. Maybe you found a great article with some sales tips or something related to your industry, and Contactually makes it really easy for you to distribute that kind of content as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really, just share really interesting articles, share stuff that is just something that is going to make a difference to them. So and makes them look. If you share stuff that will make them look smart in front of their customers, they're going to love you.
Exactly.
So great. Well, I know I can see we have got absolutely hundreds of questions that have come in. So
many more questions, but unfortunately we are out of time.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend to those of you who haven't gotten their question answered, please go ahead and ask Jason over email. His email is jason@ecobusinessacademy.com, and he'll be able to get you your response after the webinar. But with that being said, it is time to wrap things up. So let me thank Jason one last time for joining us this afternoon. Your expertise and knowledge has really proven to be invaluable, and I thank you time and time again for joining us and sharing everything this evening.
Thanks very much, Brian. I really hope people got something out of it. But so that my last comment would be is just follow the law of Goya and do your follow-ups.
Awesome advice, Jason. And thanks to all of you for joining us this afternoon. Don't forget, you will be able to catch a replay of this webinar at any time, and we'll be sending you that link, and you'll find it in your inbox shortly. So I bid you all adieu and enjoy the rest of your day.